Leroy Washington did something for me. He started planting seeds in my mind that enabled me to begin to dream, as Dexter has been doing for you. And ladies and gentlemen, I started working on my dream. And most people don't work on their dreams. Why? For many years I didn't. One is because of fear. The fear of failure. What if things don't work out? And the fear of success. What if they do and I can't handle it? The other thing is that most people, ladies and gentlemen, they get comfortable. They stop growing. They stop working on themselves. They stop stretching. They stop pushing themselves. And they end up becoming very cynical about life. And they throw in the towel on themselves, on their families, and on their dreams. And the other thing is that most people don't feel worthy. What I'm doing now, I could have been doing years ago. But because I did not have a college education, because I didn't believe in myself, because I allowed other people's opinion of me to control my destiny, I didn't act on my ideas. So I applaud you for your dreaming, for your running toward your dream. I applaud you for believing in yourself, because that's what life is about. Stretching and challenging, looking for ways that you can begin to improve yourself. And ladies and gentlemen, as a result of stretching out, of acting on my dream, and I don't know what that dream is for you, I can tell you that it's possible. No one could have convinced me that after just over 6 years, I will have my own book entitled Live Your Dreams. Just over 6 years, I would have 5 specials on public television. Just over 6 years, I've done motivational speaking for AT&T, Procter & Gamble, McDonald's Corporation, Xerox, IBM. Just over 6 years. I will now have my own talk show that will premiere on Monday, Labor Day. I'm saying to you, your dream is possible.
I'm wealthy because of my friends. It's one of the greatest wealths of all, friendship. Those wonderful people who know all about you and still like you, right, friends? I just lost a friend. David died 2-3 years ago. He was the one I used to talk about. If I was stuck in a foreign jail accused unduly, if they would allow me one phone call, I would have called David. Why would I call him? He would come and get me. End of story. That's what you call friend, right? Somebody who would come and get you. Next, I said I'm wealthy because of what I've learned. I'm wealthy from the people who have taught me, from the Earl Schoafs of the world, and from other people that have made a contribution to my intellectual discovery, that have helped me to refine the track I live on, for good health, for prosperity, for all the things valuable. Can't put a price tag on someone's book or someone's conversation. Someone who gives you knowledge when you need it the most, when you can't think of the ideas, your head is so clouded maybe with despair, and the clouds of difficulty hover near. This is when you need somebody to whisper valuable information in your ear that helps you to survive and then to finally succeed. What is that knowledge worth? You can't put a price tag on it. What's this seminar worth? You couldn't put a price tag on it. The cost of the seminar pays for the lights and the room and somebody like me to come, and the staff and all the other things. But the price of the seminar can't be the ideas. Here's what we have to do. Charge you for all the stuff, and then the ideas are free. Because how could you put a price tag on the ideas? That would be impossible. If you read a book that spared you from having a heart attack, what would it be worth? Someone says, $19.95. Say, no. That's what it costs. That's what it costs for the cover and the ink and the pages and the words and getting it to you and the brokers and all the stuff in between. That's the $20. You couldn't pay for the ideas. They're free. Key thing I've learned. Never begrudge the money you spend on personal education. Because if you can keep developing your mind and your perception and your awareness and your ability to discover, the fortune is yours. The health is yours. The promise is yours. A good family relationship is yours. Friendship is yours. Everything is yours. If you keep accelerating your education, it's the best money you can invest in your personal self-education. Next, I said, I'm a wealthy man because of my future. You can't believe the people who say to me, Jim Rohn, what do you want to do in the future? We've got the wealth and the resources to do anything you want to do. What do you want to do? Do you know how unbelievable that is? What do you want to do? Incredible. Well, I was lucky. I wasn't searching for a mentor, but one just sort of fell in my lap. A friend of mine said, you've got to meet this guy I've gone to work for, Earl Schoaf. He's rich, but he's easy to talk to. He's got a unique philosophy of life and business. I said, okay, yeah, I got to meet this guy. And then I met him. He invited me to join him in his business and became my mentor. I got the sense right away he delighted just as much in other people's success as he did his own. That caught my attention right away. Then he had the ability to look into the future and see the possibilities that I couldn't see. I can't remember how often he said, trust me. I'm telling you, trust me. Here here's how it will go if you'll stay steady and do it right. See, that was great mentoring. Then Bill Bailey. We've been associated in business and projects for many, many years. Bill's unique. Bill can read a 200-page book in about 20 minutes and then tell you about this book and make it more interesting than if you read it yourself. And from his Shakespeare acting to his boxing career and in the Navy and his business career of wealth and productivity. Years ago, of course, he was the big game hunter, the larger-than-life character. It's just been my good fortune to know him all these years. On the second bottle of wine down on our goat farm in Kentucky, where we're in business together, we wax eloquent. He's a great conversationalist, and I ask a question and he poses some possibilities that I never thought of, and I'm sure I do the same for him. It's great to have that kind of interchange where you kind of wonder together about things. So this could be a possibility, this could be an answer, who knows? Then he's written his own poetry that's unique, and his studies and his concepts are valuable for me. But best of all is simply the friendship, chance to get together, not just share ideas, but just enjoy unique life experiences. And then my parents, they were unique. My father was remarkable in his bit of philosophy. He said, always do more than you get paid for to make an investment in your future. That's a pretty good seminar in itself. My mother was more of a reader and a scholar and taught me well, gave me a great foundation. Primarily gave me just a great place to live and a great place to stay and learn and grow. Then the sense that when I did leave home, that no matter what happened, I could always go home. So you better treat me right, I can go home. Who needs this? I just had that attitude, not to be arrogant, but I just had that unbelievable confidence that no matter how things turned out, whether it turned out right or went upside down, for my mom and dad, it didn't matter. I could always go home. Mom would bake me biscuits and cook me oatmeal. That relationship was just really unique. It was great between my parents. They had, 65 plus years of marriage, so it was long. But then they gave me that incredible sense of security and caring that whether I did it right or did it wrong or upside down, it really didn't matter. That home was always a place you could come and get some rest and think things through and work it out and then go back and conquer the rest of the world and see what you can do. There's really not much better sense of security than that. And of course now they're gone and I'm an orphan. I haven't got a mother and a father, but the lingering influence of my growing up years plus that kind of security and tranquility and sense of refuge from a busy world and out there doing the best you can, and that they truly loved me when I was rich and when I was poor, broke and struggling, and when I did well. And then they enjoyed my success and the applause and some of the experiences of being recognized. They enjoyed that. So it was great. I would wish the same kind of experience for everyone. And then I counsel parents to the best of my ability, provide that kind of security and framework for your children, that they feel comfortable even though they misstep, cross the line, get in trouble, upside down. If a kid gets in trouble, guess who he wants to call? His mother. She'll come and get me. Papa may say to the sheriff, well, leave him in jail overnight, but not Mama. No, if she's there, she'll come and get him.
The scripture says God hastens his word to perform it. That word hasten means quickly, speedily, in a hurry. And I'm not saying that we don't have to wait. There are things that take time. What I'm saying is when you don't see anything happening, it looks like what you're up against is never going to change. When you come into your destiny moment, God will do it speedily, quicker than you thought. You'll accomplish a dream in a fraction of the time. That obstacle looks permanent, suddenly it turns around. That's God hastening his word. 2 Kings chapter 7, the Israelites were surrounded by the Syrian army. They had cut off the Israelites' food supply. Now the people were starving, just a matter of time before they died. Every circumstance said it was permanent. The enemy army was bigger. They had more equipment. All the odds were against the Israelites. But there were 4 lepers sitting outside the city gates. They thought, we have nothing to lose. We're going to die anyway. Let's go down to the Syrian camp and see what they're doing. While they were walking toward the enemy, the scripture says God caused the Syrians to hear the sound of speeding chariots and galloping horses, the footsteps of a vast army approaching. The Syrian king thought the Israelites had hired several armies to attack them. Verse 7 says, the Syrians panicked and fled into the night. leaving all their horses, tents, and belongings. What was that? God causing their enemies to hurry out of their way. Seemed impossible.
I'll give you another example. In America, many of you, there's 72 countries here, but in America, a lot of people see individuals that come from Asia as being superior in science and math. And there's a different mindset in those countries about science and math. And when those people come here, they work incredibly hard, they're incredibly focused, they believe, and the belief structure is they do really well if you're Asian. Now, in our culture, in the past, many times people have been focused on the fact that if you are a man, you do well with math and science, but if you're a woman, it's just not your cup of tea, you're not quite as strong in it. And there's no basis for that whatsoever, but it's a cultural anchor that people have begun to believe in. So here's what's interesting. They took the math part of the SAT test, and they took a group of women at Harvard, and all they did to change the test is change the first question of the test. On half the test, they said, what's your gender? On the other half of the test, they said, what is your nationality, right? What's your ethnicity? Well, interesting. When they're asked what their sex was, and they're all women, they performed 11% lower. And if they were asked, what is your ethnicity? And they said Asian, they were 11% higher, a 22% difference between the two. And the only difference was the first question was asked. Because it primed you either for your higher level of skill based on your conditioning or a lower level of skill based on social conditioning. How many follow, right? There's a million studies like this. Another interesting one that's really simple is they did an ad where they show the IBM logo and the Apple logo. And they also did this with the commercial. I don't know if you remember the commercial Think Differently that Apple made years ago. So they had people watch the commercials. In both cases, afterwards, they were given a creativity test. The people that watched the 30-second Apple commercial versus IBM scored 20% higher consistently across the board, and all they saw was 30 seconds about thinking different. That is the power of priming. So my point is really simple. If you're going to get the results that you deserve and that you want to prime yourself for success, prime yourself for love, prime yourself for courage, rather than hope that you show up that way based on the triggers of your environment. Does this make sense? And so I prime myself every single day for a minimum of 10 minutes. It's the first thing I do in the morning. And I'd like to show you how I do it and have you do it so you can have a daily discipline. And if you do this every day, if you keep once or twice a year, get yourself to an immersion experience that makes you grow. You get yourself a coach where twice a month, 30 minutes even, you're just staying on target and measuring. And you read 30 minutes a day or hear an audio 30 minutes a day, and you start with priming, then this won't be a 3, 6, 12-month thing. This will be a lifetime thing. Does that make sense? So you're not going to get a lifetime results unless you're lucky by one experience, but you can certainly have it if you use this as the blast off, and then you have a daily discipline to keep the momentum going. So how are we going to prime? Well, let me give you a story first, a simple example first with one of my boys. My second youngest son's name is Josh. I love him to death, amazing kid. And Josh came to live with me when he was 5 years old. Remember I told you I was 24, and instantly I got married to a woman who'd been married twice before with kids from 2 different husbands, and she wasn't living with her kids. And so I met her, fell in love with her, brought her into my life, and then saw how sad she was without her kids. So I brought her kids away from both the other husbands. They were happy to give them to us, and I adopted them as ours. And so I'm 24, and I got a 17-year-old son, because she was 13 years my senior, an 11-year-old daughter, a 5-year-old, and one on the way. Well, Josh was the 5-year-old, and Joshy is just such a sweet, really incredibly great kid. But one of the challenges for Josh was he was afraid to even walk down the driveway to get to the bus. I'm Mr. Fear and the power rip shit open, and my son can't walk down to the bottom of the street. And so I had to kind of try to figure out how to deal with this, how to figure it all out, and to figure out what I was going to do to try and make this thing happen, to make it change. And so one of the things that happened was I started to realize that I needed to train his nervous system to have courage. Instead of hoping it showed up, I got to really train it. And I started doing these things with him, and I watched him before my eyes change and become more confident, became more strong. And all it was doing was getting him to program his own mind, prime himself. Just really simple little things to do. And then one day, Josh came home, and he was laughing uncontrollably, and like over nothing. And then I came in the room, and there was a new friend with him. And this kid, do you know anybody that's not really funny, but they think they are? I don't even know something like this. Somebody who cracks themselves up, you know what I mean? And this kid was cracking himself up. He wasn't funny, but he laughed so hard, I found myself laughing at his silly jokes, right? And Josh was laughing so much. So when he left, I said to Josh, that kid, he's your friend? I said, make him your friend for life. He goes, why, Dad? I said, because if you hang out with him, who you spend time with is who you become. And when when you're around him, you're so much more playful. You just have so much more joy. You have so much laughter. And that young boy, my son is 36 and I have 3 grandkids with him, and his best friend is still that young boy who's now also 36 years old. And Josh is, yes, give him a hand for that. That's it. And to this day, Josh is funny as shit. When he was a little kid, like 7 or 8 years old, he stole this dirty jokes book and memorized every freaking joke in the damn thing. And he got so much reward for it, and his buddy was like that to this day, if I want to laugh, Josh is my partner in a couple of my companies, and he's not my partner. I have 4 kids. None of my others are partners with me. I love them all equally, but he shows up differently. And part of it is things that stress other people out, he breaks the pattern with his own laughter. And it's beautiful to be around him. Great time. And he primed them. So I'll give you another example of priming. When I first started my Date with Destiny seminar decades ago, I did the seminar in my own house at a place called the Del Mar Castle. And there were about, 38, 39 people at the seminar. It's a little different now, as you can see. And I was delivering like my heart and soul into this particular program. And gradually I started looking around and going, man, I can't keep doing this in my house. There's not enough room. When we got to 100 people, I had to move it. But I wanted to keep it in I lived in Del Mar, California. It's on the beach. And I said, well, there's a hotel on the beach. And it's a really nice hotel called Le Berge. And we'll go down Le Berge, we'll do it there. And they have a room that'll hold 150 people, which is a giant seminar for me at those days. And what I didn't count on, I thought, this is great. People work on their beliefs and their goals and their values, and they can go outside and they can sit on the beach during the breaks, breathe the fresh air. But what I didn't think about is right there in Del Mar on the beach, there's a train station. And so somehow my little brain didn't figure this out till it was too late. I'm in the middle of the seminar and someone is sharing this emotional experience. This woman was raped and she's going through it all, and I'm stepping in to help her, and all of a sudden and you hear this freaking train whistle. And they do it like 5 times so nobody misses the train. And so every time you start talking, you interrupt it again, and people are getting pissed off. And it was happening so often because there's so many trains that at one point I realized I know the schedule when everybody will be pissed off. 8:30 a.m., 10:15, 11:30, 12:10. They're going to be pissed because the train's going to come. So I turned to the audience and I said, we kind of have a schedule for being pissed off right now, and I'd like us to train ourselves to feel differently. How many of you have something in your life or someone who can trigger you at times, annoy you? It could be a family member you love, but they have this little thing they do. It could be a husband or wife. It could be your kids. It could be a coworker. How many got one of these? Say, I said, what if we trained ourselves so the same stimulus that was making us angry, we trained our nervous system just using basic science, neuroscience, train our nervous system so the same stimulus makes us feel great. And people looked at me like, this is bullshit. What are you talking about? I said, here's what I want to do. Since the train's going to come 12 times a day and we have 3 more days together, perhaps we should enjoy the train. How many of you, when you were a kid, when you heard a train, you wanted to see the train and maybe count the number of cars or run down and be close to it? How many were excited when you saw a train? Raise your hand, say aye. Now you're on the way to work or a meeting and a train comes and it's in your way. Frickin' train! I'll give you a clue. The train didn't change. Right? So the question is, I said, what if every time the train comes, we train ourselves to celebrate, to feel good, to enjoy? I said, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Every time we are trained, I don't care if you're in the middle of the most important conversation of your life. I don't care if we're doing something what you think is so important. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if all the books are on your chair. I want you to instantly just drop everything, and I want you to jump and start to celebrate like a little kid, like it's the greatest gift of your life. And then we're going to end with a whoa clap, and then we're going to laugh hysterically into our chair. And if you can't laugh, I want you to fake laugh into your chair. Because most of you know, if you fake laugh, what starts to happen? Real laughter comes, right? And then you wire yourself to laugh more easily. Just like with Josh, I wanted people, wouldn't it be nice to laugh easier? You didn't have to have everything be perfectly funny for you to have a good time. Because most of you doesn't have to be perfectly bad for you to be pissed off. So train it. So I got everybody to agree, and we did it. So every time the train came, and some people are like, oh, frickin' train, that won't work. You gotta go, it's a train. You gotta be like a little kid. And pretty soon, people look forward to the train. And by the way, would this be useful to train yourself around a person in your life or a situation, yes or no? So I don't have a train nearby, but I've imported a special train whistle, and I'm gonna ask you for the rest of today, no matter how tired we are, no matter how hardworking, no matter what we're in the middle of, if we hear that train whistle, we're gonna jump up and we're gonna celebrate like little kids, make noise, have fun. We'll clap, we'll do the whoa clap, and then we're gonna laugh hysterically into our chair and maybe point at somebody else and laugh at them while we're doing it to train our nervous system.
Was reading Pat Riley, the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. But you're going to like this quote here. After the Trailblazers had blown them out of the water, and I'm sure he said this last night, they asked him, how do you feel? He said, tonight we were exposed for what we are right now. You see? That if my speech tonight doesn't work, it doesn't mean that I'm a bad speaker. It means that what I didn't work tonight. And I've got to separate what I do from who I am. And I've got another shot. See, the last chapter to your life has not been written yet, and it doesn't matter about what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter about the things that you've done that you feel guilty about. If you wouldn't do it today, you're convicting an innocent person. You've been reborn to a new state of consciousness. And as they say, if we knew better, we would do better.
You know, everybody has a different temperament and personality, and it's something that has to be developed, you know, over a period of time. If you're too shy, you should really learn to push that into a small corner and speak up more. If you're a little too loud, maybe you should, you know, calm down just a little bit. But we shouldn't try to just radically become someone else. But that's what sophistication and civilization is supposed to do, is to make us civil. And to be civil in a civil society, we all must deal with that dark side of our nature, the positive side of our nature. And it isn't that it ever gets done or finished, but that we should suppress those things that would cause us trouble, not only within ourselves, but cause us trouble with someone else. It's a never-ending challenge, but to still always be who you are. But who we are is, you might describe it as dual nature. And the key to life is to become the most of the good in you and the least of the bad. So it's important also to see if you can't work on those things that, you know, are not in your best interest, both in your thinking process and developing your plans for the future, or in your process of working with others, sitting at a conference table or being involved in an enterprise. That's a constant. When some become wealthy now, they have to deal with ego that didn't show its sort of ugly head until, you know, the money was flowing like a river, and now this little gremlin on one shoulder whispers and says, now's the time, right, to, you know, conquer the world and let everybody know you're the master. And sure enough, it can cause all kinds of problems. One of the greatest difficulties of wealth is, you know, handling this issue of ego and keeping it under control. So we need to reveal who we are, but we also need to master the art of who we are presented as our best, as it serves us and our children, as it serves us and our friends, as it serves us in our business. But it is a constant and it never ends. But if we can appeal, make a personal appeal to ourselves, I want to constantly work on developing the positive side of my nature and do my best to suppress that darker side that would not allow me to be most of what I can possibly be. I think that's what's important. When a president becomes president, it's interesting, what ego might do. Old Testament says this king came to power and he was a good king. Then the next king came to power and he was a bad king. I think trying to find your passion is a little bit, maybe too strong a word. Greatly desiring to be extremely successful, I think probably is sufficient. But if you can find something you really love to do and can do it with great passion, I think that's fantastic. But I think being grateful probably is number one. If you've got a job, you got to be grateful. Say, this isn't the greatest job in the world, but even if it's a transitional job getting you where you want to go, you got to be grateful. You don't have to love your job or be passionate about your job, just passionate about staying steady, working hard, learning skills, doing this job so well that the next one will be even better, and taking such good care of this opportunity, another one will present itself. Sometimes the man says, well, if I had a good job, I'd really pour it on. But I've got this lousy job, so I just goof off. So that's not the attitude nor the philosophy. So if you'd really pour it on, this one, even though it may not be the best job in the world, if it furnishes a living, you have to be grateful. If it takes care of you and your family, you got to have gratitude. Not necessarily passion, but gratitude. But I think if you have an extreme desire to wish to be successful, so you can accomplish all you wish to accomplish, be as generous as you'd like to be as strong as you'd like to be in terms of financial strength, involved in entrepreneurial projects that you can't do without, let's say, sizable money, so you go for that. To me, I think that's sufficient. I think if you say you have to find your passion, people find that a little bit confusing. Where would I find it? And what could I be passionate about? I guess you could start with saying, I'm passionate about providing unusual success for myself and for my family, so that my children will say in the years to come, we had the most incredible life together as a family. Then I think the key is to let what you want to accomplish, let that grow. Where at first this is as far as you can see, but if you'll do that, you could say, wow, maybe I could multiply by 2, by 3, and expand my vision, accomplish a lot more. If you have an enterprise, maybe you could make it stronger and better and more far-reaching. Let that happen. It's difficult to figure it all out and then get that done. We just don't do that. We can figure out the next little part of our life that we can see, and then we can say, well, eventually I'd like to have, and let those dreams linger somewhere in your consciousness. I say, make a list of all the things that would give you the most incredible life. Just make that list. What would do it for you over the next 10, 20 years? Places to go, things to see, people to meet, books to read, skills to learn, investments to make, being generous. Make lists of all the things that you think would make for you a really fantastic life. And at first, don't worry about how to get it. Just let your mind run free and think what would really do it for you. And then just begin and let those lists alter. Because sometimes you start for something and then you say, sure enough, I thought this was really going to be everything I wanted. Sure enough, this is really not it. Or I can see now, long before you are going to accomplish it, I'm investing too much money and time and effort. So you change. And anytime you want, you can tear up your whole list and start all over again. Some people say, I made the list, so I have to accomplish it. And the answer is no, you don't have to do it. It's your life. It's your list. You can turn it upside down, right side up, scratch off some things, put some new things on, or start all over again. Don't let it become an obsession. Let it become an enticement. Better to be enticed than obsessed. Or we might invest too much effort and time in something that's not really going to turn out to be as great as we thought it would. The old prophet said, sometimes things that taste good in the mouth later turns bitter in the belly. We think, oh, this is it. Sure enough, it was a bit of an illusion. Don't cry for me, Argentina. Right? One of the lines is, they are illusions. They're not the solutions they promised to be. But that's a learning experience, and we can only be affected by what we see. Someone says, well, you shouldn't have devoted so much of your time and energy. But if that's what you could see, only that at the moment, we're going to do it, and we just learn as we go. We need a collection of experience to give us good data on what to do, what not to do. Sometimes you need more experience to make a wiser decision. If a person says, well, I've eaten junk food now for a week, but look how strong and healthy I am. See, that's a delusion. 1 week is not going to give you the right kind of information about how you feel, whether it's a good idea to continue or not. You need a lot more experience than that to decide whether or not it's good for you. I used this illustration once with the candle lit, talking about having enough experience to make wise decisions. And I said, would all of you agree that the fire will burn my finger? Let's say that I don't know that, but you're trying to teach me now. If you put your finger in the flame, it will burn your finger. I say, okay, I'm ready to try it. So I put my finger in the flame and take it out, fairly quickly, in and out, right in the flame and out. And I say, look, my finger's okay. Let me try it again. And I put my finger in the flame and take it right out. And I say, my finger's okay. Where did you get this idea that the flame would burn my finger? And they say, no, Mr. Rohn, you can't just go like this really quick and put your finger and take it right out of the flame to know that the flame will burn your finger. You've got to leave your finger in there just a little longer. I say, oh yes, then I need a little more experience to make a wise decision. Say, well, I've taken this cocaine and I feel okay. But see, you don't know the end of that road. This is only the beginning when it seems to be okay. But you need more experience. Now, if you don't have any personal experience on cocaine, then you've got to go to someone who has and says, look, 20 years of my life was wasted and I finally turned it around. Like some of the old rock and rollers that have turned it around. Amazing. I was in Paris the other day, had 20,000 in my class. Also in town were the Rolling Stones, who rolled into Paris and stopped for a while with Mick Jagger and all the rest. These guys got through those treacherous days of drugs and alcohol and somehow made it. A lot of them didn't make it. Boy George said, I woke up one day and all my friends were dead. That's enough experience. So maybe if you haven't had enough, you're just getting started.